Hey guys, this is Garrett Wong, also known as Ensign Harry Kim from Star Trek Voyager, and you're watching Astronomy Live.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Stop.
Hi folks, welcome to Astronomy Live. Tonight I'm going to be giving my original S-Big ST2000XCM deep space camera one more chance to see if it will work. Last time I did a deep space webcam or webcast, it started acting weird, started acting like it was malfunctioning. So I kind of wrote it off for dead. Went with a backup camera. The backup camera worked fine, and we tracked James Webb Space Telescope. But I'm kind of wondering if the camera's okay and it just had a fluke, maybe a bad connection on the USB or the power connection. So I'm going to try to rule that out by giving it one more chance here tonight. Right now, it's just pointed at Regulus, which I used for focusing and alignment. And in a minute we'll go to a galaxy, probably do M81, M82, and see if everything looks okay with that. So right now, the camera's just going to take some images. I'm going to go grab the cable for auto-guiding, and we'll calibrate the auto-guider, and then we'll slew to the galaxy. But we'll see if the camera does what it did before. It had a couple of very bizarre and not good behaviors last time. One was that the frames coming down from the camera got increasingly laggy. It's as if the camera control software could not talk to the camera, and it was being real slow starting exposures, and it just kept getting worse and worse with successive exposures. So I'm going to run some short exposures, well, relatively short, 10-second exposures here, while I go grab the control cable. And when I come back, we'll see if it's still running. It also did this thing where the images themselves started to become corrupted, and I don't know how else to describe it, but there were these false detections of light or aberrant detections of light that looked like jaws or teeth going across the image on random frames. It did that, seemed to do that even with dark frames, I believe, even with the camera or telescope covered. So not real light, just some sort of aberrant signal in the camera that was being perceived as, light in the image. It's actually not the first time I've seen that kind of behavior from this type of camera, but it is the first time I've seen it in that pattern, anyway. And other frames looked like the shutter was only halfway closed when it should be all the way closed. Again, a lot of it could be explained by bad communication between the control software on the computer and the camera itself, which is kind of a mostly dumb camera in the sense that it relies on the drivers and software on the computer side to control it. So it could very well be that that was the issue, and that it was just a temporary issue and not truly a dead camera. But the only way to be sure is to just do some exposures here. I've also taken off the adaptive optics unit and put it on my backup camera, so the backup S-Big, which is identical in practically every way, now has the adaptive optics unit on it. But instead of putting the camera on the main telescope, I've got the camera on the 80mm refractor, the Orion ST80 achromat refractor. So optical quality, honestly, not as good as the main telescope, which in this case is my 8-inch LX200, but a wider field of view, more forgiving, much more forgiving field of view, and doesn't require adaptive optics. Adaptive optics really, well, first of all, won't work with this type of telescope, the refractor. its adapter is only designed to attach to the main telescope, and not really necessary at this short focal length anyway. So if I can get it to work, we'll try to go for M81, M82, a pair of galaxies in Ursa Major that are quite pretty, also known as Bode's Nebula and the Cigar Galaxy. And if it doesn't work, backup plan, I do have the backup camera, the adaptive optics unit is ready. I can go and attach that camera to the telescope instead, and attach it to the main telescope, and we'll just shoot one of the galaxies. Or we can go elsewhere. But either way, we're going to have some fun tonight, and we're going to figure out, hopefully, if this camera is really dead. Seems to be working at the moment. I don't see the symptoms appearing. I don't see it lagging or anything. It's firing off the exposures right on time after it downloads the last exposure without delay. So it's not saving these exposures, but just letting it run for a bit and seeing if everything is working as intended. Thanks, Dora. Hopefully skies stay clear. I think they will. It's pretty cool tonight for Florida, 63 degrees, perfectly clear skies. Looks like a beautiful night. So I certainly couldn't pass up the opportunity to do some deep space imaging here. With the moon out of the way for now and clear skies, we're going to see what we can do. So I'll be right back. I'm going to go fetch the autoguide cable, and I'll be back with you in a moment. Alright, I'm back with you, and I just attached the autoguider control cable. Now, let's see. I don't want to... Well, I just took an image with the autoguider. Didn't mean to, really, but that's fine. Close that for now. We'll use the main imager to train the autoguider. Let's see if this function works. Okay, we got some stars there. We don't need that many stars. I tend to take a really short exposure. There we go. Now I got to make sure I take the slack out of the drive. So hopefully this will work. Hopefully. I'm actually hopeful after seeing it run images there for a couple minutes without issue. Seems like it might actually be okay. Hope I didn't speak too soon there. Alright, we're going to calibrate. Move that for 9 seconds. Okay, hopefully this... hopefully I don't move the star, the calibration star, completely out of the field of view during the 9-second motion in the y-axis. Probably not, but I have to use a long pulse in the y-axis because of deck backlash. When it goes the opposite direction, it'll fail out if it doesn't completely take up the backlash. So I want to run 9 seconds there on that. Looks like it's okay. It stayed in the field of view. Yep, perfect. Okay, drive calibration successful. That's what we want to see. Now I want to artificially copy the positive axis to the negative axis to compensate for the backlash there. Okay, that's going to be 90, actually 84, about 80, actually 86. 86 degrees. Okay, that's good. So we're good there. I might want to actually recalibrate when we get close to the target. Right now we're near the celestial equator, but we're going to be at much higher declination. In theory, this should compensate for that if I were to adjust it, but I'm not gonna bother. I usually just recalibrate near target. Anyway, all of that said, I think we're ready to slew over to our target. Now it's going to put it in the top left where you see that star right there. That's where the refractor is currently aligned. The main telescope is aligned directly on that star. The refractor's not perfectly aligned, but it's close enough. If I don't see it immediately, I can move things down and to the right a little bit to see if I can get the galaxies to show up in the field of view if it doesn't quite land there. But we'll see how it does. Okay, so let's see what we've got to work with. First, we'll take a 10-second framing exposure and just see if we found a galaxy. I pointed it towards M81. M82 is nearby, and we want to get both of them in frame. Perfect! Actually, framing on that is not bad at all. We've got a pair of galaxies right where we want them. So I will move it over a little bit. Do want to check that we have an auto guide star available. We do. So let's move things over a bit. Actually, I'm just going to keep taking 10-second exposures over there. I guess I could do them over here instead, but anyway. Okay, that probably went the wrong way. Alright, that's fine. Yeah, let's do them over here. So we'll do 10-second exposures over here. Let's move it to the west. See if that moves it the correct direction. Yep, that's moving the right direction. So we'll keep moving it over to the west a bit, a bit, and then we'll tweak focus, and then we'll start the real exposures. Yeah, it's going to take a fair bit of motion. At this image scale, things do not move very fast at all, which is also why it's very forgiving of slight tracking errors, motor, periodic error. So you really don't need the fast response of the AO system, the adaptive optics system, to make this work at this image scale. But still, I want to get these galaxies framed up. So we have M81, M82, Cigar Galaxy on the bottom, of course, as you can see. And what is sometimes called Bode's Nebula up the top, but it's actually a galaxy. Back in the day, they didn't know about galaxies. They were all just nebula. What was that? Shoot, did I accidentally leave the hose on? I should probably go take care of that. Okay, let's see how we're doing here on framing. Probably should just use the hand controller and move things along a little faster, but yeah, we're getting there. So if you're just joining us, we're just lining things up to start taking pictures of M81, M82, and hopefully verify that this camera is still working. It gave me trouble last time when we did the James Webb stream. I kind of thought the camera might be on its last leg or dying, but maybe it was just a fluke. Maybe it was a bad connection, either USB or power. So we've set everything up here tonight. I've taken the adaptive optics unit off the camera, put it on my backup S-Big camera, but put this camera on the refractor. And we're going to see how it does tonight on M81 and M82 with an Orion ST80, which is riding piggyback on the 8-inch LX200 telescope, which is on a wedge polar aligned. Okay, that's getting there. I want to move it a little more, make a little more room. Okay. Let's move that down a little bit. More to the right. That's pretty good. Maybe just a little more. Okay, that's where I want it. Right about there. So now we'll take auto guide picture, make sure we've still got a good star, correct? So now I want to check the focus. So let's run 2-second exposures. Oh, not 2x2. Go to 1x1 subframe. That looks pretty good. Yeah. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. We're gonna see how the first image looks, but I'm gonna call that well enough on focus actually, because I'm not using the Schmidt. Yeah. Because I'm not using the Schmidt, I don't have mirror shift to worry about at least. And one of the guide rings is actually holding the focusing tube in place. So in theory, that should all be locked down tight. I shouldn't have an issue there. Okay. So we're all good to go. Check one more thing. Yep. Okay, we're all good to go. We're going to shoot 5-minute exposures. We're going to use the auto guider here. We're going to click that star. We're going to try to auto guide at 0.5-second exposures. See how it does. Okay. Try that again. Auto guide. It overshot a little bit. You know what? I should... Yeah. Well, we'll live with it. But we will use 0.7 seconds. We can afford to use a slightly longer exposure and just make sure we've got a better signal-to-noise ratio there. We don't need to be guiding super fast anyway. Alright. Guider looks good. We're going to do 5-minute exposures, no subframe, correct? Oh, I did 5 seconds. Oops. We meant to do 5 minutes. That would be helpful. Okay, so we're going to do 5-minute exposures and see how things look. Oh, hello. Hello from Alaska. And hey, Crow, good to see you. Thought my own camera crashed, says Dora. Sadly, unexpected fog. Oh well, time for sleep anyway. Well, have a good night. Sorry, fog took you out. Hopefully my camera's not dead. hopefully everything is still working with this one. If it is, then next time I do a deep space webcast, I don't know, I might go back, put the A07 back on this camera, which is where it was originally, and try to resume main camera or main telescope activities with this camera with the A07 as it originally was set up. I don't know if I want to, air quotes, risk that or not. It's on the backup camera now, which is verified to be working, but the backup camera does have a dead column that this camera doesn't have, which is why it's the backup camera. It's not an insurmountable problem. Calibration frames do tend to take that dead column out, but it's not as ideal for sure. But if everything's working fine, and I plan to image this pair of galaxies basically for the rest of the night, or at least for the next couple hours. And if everything looks okay, if I don't see any signs of trouble, I'm going to assume the camera's still in fine shape, and it was just a fluke. Man, I'm only running 44% temperature here. I could chill the camera down even more. Target is going to be M81 and M82. Do I plan on doing any more JWST streams, perhaps some geostationary sats? Oh, absolutely. In fact, we're just past the equinox here. We should still be in geostationary eclipse season, I believe. We could even do that tonight with this camera. JWST, though, is not going to be visible in the refractor. In fact, it was barely detectable to my 11-inch telescope. Granted, that was with 30-second exposures, but still. That really does call for the big guns. I probably will do more streams of JWST, but I've been doing a lot of those lately, and I wanted to get back to more traditional deep space targets for a little bit, at least for tonight, since the conditions are so good. Geostationary satellites, JWST, those are targets that I tend to take on when conditions aren't ideal, when they're not absolutely perfect. Maybe you have some moonlight or a little bit of cloud cover or some high altitude haze or something, because they won't suffer as much. Well, JWST will, but the geostationary satellites won't suffer as much from that kind of interference. You're just looking for, dots, basically, as opposed to an extended target where you have really low contrast and you're trying to pull out as much detail as possible. Which is hopefully what we'll see here in just a few seconds. Now, it will have to take a 5-minute dark frame as well. So expect to see a ton of hot pixels here as soon as this first frame gets downloaded, but hopefully everything looks okay otherwise. Yeah, I'd say it does. Okay, I don't see any real showstoppers here far as the camera itself is concerned. Now, this is just an Orion ST80. It's a cheap achromatic telescope. It's not an APO or anything, so you are going to get significant chromatic aberration on the stars. I've got a UV IR block filter on the camera, but that's only going to mitigate some of the damage of that optic. It's just a consequence of the optics here. What do you want for $100 basically is the issue. One of these days I would like to get a nicer, proper APO to put on top of my telescopes, but just haven't found the justification for that just yet. As you guys know, a lot of what I do tends to be more satellite tracking, a lot of ISS tracking. Deep space I do like to dabble, but that's not I wouldn't consider it my forte anyway. It's just something I like to dabble with, so one of these days I'll get some kind of APO for this thing, but I really thought long and hard before I went with the 11-inch Nexstar about just sticking with the 8-inch LX200 and getting an APO or something. But I kept coming back to the same conclusion, which is that, well, that's all nice and everything, but what's that going to do for me as far as satellite tracking goes? And the answer is nothing. That won't do anything for me that I can't already do with what I have. That's really just for taking, eye candy shots, pretty shots like this of wide-angle views of galaxies and such. For close-ups, I can already punch in with the 8-inch and take pictures of either one of these galaxies individually and get more detail. But if you want to capture them both in a single frame, you need a wide-field refractor. So those who know what to look for in high-quality astrophotography shots are probably reeling at the size of these stars and the halos around them from chromatic aberration. But to be honest, your average layperson who's not acquainted with that is not really going to care as much. I mean, it just looks like a pretty shot with a lot of stars to them. Doesn't say much for those who have a well-trained eye for good astrophotography, but myself included. But at least for the general public, this does at least show what you can do with relatively inexpensive hardware. The S-Big camera I'm using can be had on the used market for a few $100, and the refractor itself is or at least it was at the time, a $100 telescope I got off of Orion. Now you do need a mount for that will track with the rotation of the Earth. It needs to be polar aligned to do 5-minute exposures like this. And so I just piggyback on top of the LX200 with the rail system, and that does the job. I could piggyback it, and I can piggyback it on top of the 11-inch as well, but that does me no good. And in fact, I don't have a wedge for the 11-inch yet, so I can't even polar align, nor would it make any sense to haul out the 11-inch just to serve as a mount for the refractor. That's just silly overkill. In fact, even the 8-inch LX200 is silly overkill. It's just what I have available. It would make sense to have a smaller dedicated German equatorial mount to put a small refractor on like this. Something like an EQ or something. Maybe a Celestron CGX or something. But nevertheless, I'm just running with what I have, which happens to be, in this case, an LX200 with a equatorial wedge. Polar alignment didn't take too long tonight. It was pretty straightforward. I just did an iterative polar alignment because it's fast and easy. Alright. So after the 5-minute dark frame, you get rid of the hot pixels. See a lot more detail. These two little dark spots right here are just dust motes on the CCD. Those are known dust spots that will be removed by taking a flat field at the end of the imaging. Was testing my DIY focuser. That was success. Good. So happy with this night. Alright, well, glad to hear that, Dora. And I guess you've taken off by this point. Got some more images of Orion. Processing on the desktop. Was going to go live, but ended up watching the Atom Project. Yeah, I enjoyed that movie. I watched it too. I mean, it's nothing super memorable, but yeah, it's a quick popcorn flick on Netflix. It's not bad. AVX. That's what I was trying to think of. AVX. Celestron AVX. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that would make life easier probably just to have a smaller, or at least just a dedicated German equatorial to throw the refractor on rather than hauling out a whole Celestron, or hauling out a whole Schmidt-Cassegrain just to do this, but it also doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to dump money in that direction just for convenience sake. If I were going to upgrade in this direction at all, it would be, like I said, just to get some sort of small APO of equivalent size to throw in these guide rings and mount that piggyback on the LX200 instead and get better quality images that way. I mean, I'm just going to load up what I've got here so far, which is to say I don't have much yet, but the one image I've got here. Load that up in Deep Sky Stacker and just take a quick look at the stars. Yeah, that's... The chromatic aberration aside, it's not bad. I think ultimately it'll make for a decent picture. I almost kind of wish, well, trying to free up some space. get things positioned so I can just see the guide star. Move this guy over. There we go. Just wanted to reframe things a little bit here. That's better. Looks like Maxim. Actually, this is CCD soft. Came with a camera, and so I go the cheapest root option whenever available, as long as it works. Ooh, freeing up space. Oh, yes. I'm glad you reminded me of that, because I'm kind of low on hard drive space on this computer. 16 gigs free. Yeah, that's not much. Let me see. Free up space, free up space. Let's free up some space. I've got some Apophis images here I can free up space on. Oh yeah, let's free that up. Okay, did that do anything for me? Yeah, it bought me 3 gigabytes, that'll do. So now I got almost 20 gigs free. It's a small hard drive on this computer. But, that'll work. Sorry, I had to step away for a second there. Just reminded me I need to free up some space before tomorrow. Have I tried Nina? No, I haven't. Is that a astronomical image capturing program? C drive generally has about 2 to 5 gigs if you're lucky on your desktop. Data drive, desktop is a bit more. 4 terabyte USB drive, that's nice. Yeah, I think I've got a 6 terabyte external drive, but it's slow. And then I've got my network attached storage, which has more. But the hard drive on this laptop is tiny. It's 256 gig. And, you know, you've got Windows taking up about 40 or 50 of that. So, with 20 gigs free, I've actually got 10% of the hard drive free, which is always a struggle for me on a C drive. Oh, okay. Yeah, Nina. Huh, I'll have to look into that. Do you know if it supports the A07? Because that's my pride and joy most nights. That's the reason I can get away with the old LX200 fork mount. Well, looks like the emergency helicopter's taking off again. There's a paramedic helicopter that flies out of the town here. They just came back not long ago. Having a busy night. Hey, Julian. Thanks. Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, it is just an achromat. It's not going to be the world's most beautiful image of M81, M82, but I'm happy with how it's coming along anyway. If it has an ASCOM driver. Actually, I don't know. I don't know for sure if the A07 has an ASCOM driver. It's kind of unusual kit, I think. I mean, I don't know too many people who use one. Everything there looks normal. I always like to check on the stars in any galaxy I'm shooting, make sure I'm not missing a supernova or something that's right in front of my face. Yeah, everything there looks normal. I do remember some years ago when there was a supernova in M82. Cigar Galaxy down in the bottom. Pretty sure there was one. I seem to recall capturing it. I'm not sure if the A07 will function with the ASCOM. I mean, it's controlled as one unit with the camera, but it requires a different camera selection in CCD Soft, for example. It's treated differently with I think it's running a different driver. And I don't know if the ASCOM driver for the ST2000, if there is one, I don't know, it's an older camera. And the A07 is very old. 97, I think, 1997. And so I don't know if anyone made an ASCOM driver for it. How much time will it take to stack all this images? Well, the stacking's pretty quick, but the collection is the hard part, of course. That's the long part. I'm going to run it for a couple hours at least. Try to get a decent, really decent image. I'll also verify the camera's functioning. I mean, that's the big test tonight. Does this camera really work? It seems to be working fine. No sign of trouble, which is more than I could say for it last time. But all the more reason to do it, give it a really thorough test here, and really consistent imaging on this target to make sure there's no transient issues or any sign of poor camera health, I guess. But everything seems to be working okay at the moment. Can't hurt to try it. I mean, yeah, I guess I could try it. I mean, I guess it couldn't, but could it? I don't know. I don't know if you try to drive an A07 with the wrong driver, because like I said, it's controlled as one unit, as just the camera, but it's an add-on unit for the camera that normally requires a different selection in CCD Soft. If you try to drive it incorrectly, I fear like forcing the mirror to like overdrive itself on the A07, because it's this tilt-tip mirror system, which basically I believe uses like a sort of a same technology you'd find in a speaker, but that's what's being used to move the mirror with magnets, and move very quickly to respond to guiding issues. I just don't want to accidentally cause that to blow out or something. It's a very delicate system, that's for sure. Is this CPU or GPU intensive? CPU, really. The stacking is. But it also, a lot of the stacking times are really driven by hard drive access speed. So doing it off the solid state on this little solid state drive on this laptop, it's very fast, very, very fast. Much slower on my desktop with a conventional hard drive. Serious question. Do I believe there's intelligent life out there in space? I think there probably is, but who knows? I mean, we're looking here at 2 galaxies right now. 2 whole other galaxies. Who knows what could be there looking back at us? Of course, if they were looking back at us, they wouldn't see us, just as we wouldn't see them. For reference, let's see, M81, distance right now, according to Sky Safari Pro, 12 million light years. Should be similar for M82. Yeah, 12 million light years. So you're looking 12 million years back in time right now. Yeah, it is a little complicated. It's a very niche system and not well supported, I suspect, elsewhere. NVMe SSD AMD Ryzen with a lot of cores the way to go. I mean, yeah, it's kind of overkill, at least for what I'm running. This S-Big ST2000, I mean, this camera was designed in the 90s, manufactured in the early 2000s, and so any modern computer is going to have no trouble running it. Stacking you're talking about the difference between it taking a few seconds and a minute or two on an older conventional hard drive. So, at least with this hardware that I'm running here, you're not gonna overtax anything modern, I should say. If you have a newer, higher resolution CCD camera, a ZWO of some type maybe, you could be getting into many more megapixels of data, and when you're working with raw FITS files and the like, yeah, it's a lot of data to crunch, so you do want more computing power there. But for this hardware, what I'm running, this older hardware, it's not a problem. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Billions of galaxies, just as many or more stars, certainly more planets capable of supporting life. Bound to be intelligent life somewhere, at least at some point in time. I mean, it stands to reason. And even if there were, intelligent life just filling one of these galaxies we're looking at right now, maybe even making itself obvious, blowing up stars like it's going out of style and they've got Darth Vader in every system, it wouldn't matter. We wouldn't see any of it for 12 million years. So that's the fun thing. They could be doing anything. There could be aliens doing anything to either of these galaxies, and we wouldn't know about it for 12 million years. Yeah, no problem, Jonathan. I mean, if you're getting into amateur astrophotography, the thing you really want to spend a lot of money on is the telescope itself and the mount and the camera. The computer that runs it all doesn't have to be super powerful unless you're doing something very specific. I mean, you do want, if you're doing something like, for example, satellite tracking, which, I've got my sat tracker software, you want something somewhat decent. You want something better than a minimum spec laptop. I've got a fairly low-end gaming laptop, and that is more than enough. It runs everything just fine, including satellite tracking. Anyone heard or read about this? SDSS J1430-2302, host galaxy of a merger of two black holes within 100 to 300 days as of February 17th. Dr. Becky on YouTube. I'm familiar with Dr. Becky. I can't say for sure that I've heard that story. It sort of rings a bell with some other stuff I've heard that I meant to keep tabs on. It sounds really interesting, though. Stacked 800 by 30 seconds of M33. Took 3 days. Yeah, I remember I did a 2-panel mosaic of M33. I wasn't entirely happy with it. I probably should have been a little more patient and done it over multiple days, but I just did a single night marathon on M33 with two panels on it, and I really didn't plan it well enough. I should have made it symmetrical about the meridian, but I didn't, so one half of the galaxy is a little bit dimmer than the other half because I didn't capture the images symmetrically about the meridian on both sides of the galaxy. Got to think about things like that if you want to do silly stuff like I did. Had to make 8 groups of 100 subs, yeah. M33 is a big one too. You need a wide field of view to capture all of that. Been trying to stack M42, but my results so far haven't been that great. Got images stacking now. I'll try and edit in GIMP tomorrow. GIMP? Oh, I guess for final touch-ups, yeah. Can't get much more than 8-second subs. $5 from Snooch. Thank you, Snooch. Have a few cups of coffee tomorrow, Doc. Love what you do. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know if the most modern versions of GIMP allow you to process in high bit depth or what your image pipeline is there. I don't like to use GIMP except for very final sort of touch-ups and noise cleanup. Mostly I use PixInsight for most of the processing, along with Deep Sky Stack, or at least that's my pipeline. A lot of people just use more modern, more expensive versions of PixInsight for the whole pipeline these days. Yeah, GIMP for stretching. Yeah. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, I try to avoid stretching in GIMP just because, unless, well, maybe GIMP can support 16-bit now, I'm not sure. But at least when I'm running for GIMP, it only supports 8-bit images. It'll down convert the FITS files into 8-bit if I open it in GIMP. $50. Oh, $50. Oh, thank you. Oh gosh, thanks, Snooch. You're right. I totally missed that zero. That's what I get for making a order of magnitude error there. That's a very significant difference. Appreciate that, Snooch. You didn't have to do that. That's very generous. That's quite a few cups of coffee for tomorrow. Appreciate it. That goes right back into investment on the hardware you see here. I just want to re-emphasize, it's because of you guys that I have the 11-inch telescope. So, Snooch, thank you so much. That'll go towards that APO to ride piggyback in the future. Oh, really? Ended up crashing. Interesting. Yeah, PixInsight. I use PixInsight LE, which you can't even get anymore. In fact, they'll come after you if you try to distribute the LE version because they realized they were giving away the farm for free. Of course, it was a really stripped-down basic version that lacks a lot of the features of the full-fledged paid version these days. But I still use LE because, well, it was free and it does good. Thank you, Snooch. I appreciate it. I will. I'll do my best to keep up the good work you see here. And thank you, Jonathan. All the background music tonight is from Stellar Drone. Used with permission, though that won't stop people from falsely filing copyright claims. Happens all the time. But I have yet to lose. Always contest it, always win that. It's sad to see how many people will try to steal Stellar Drone's music, and by that I don't just mean use it. He'll let people use it for free. By that I mean they'll try to content ID claim your videos and take your ad money, claiming that they own the rights to his music, and they don't. That's a whole nother story. I think it works with 16-bit. DSS saves automatically in 32-bit. When it's done, I save in 16-bit. Yeah, DSS does tend to save in 32-bit by default. Of course, you can force it to save 16-bit. I usually open it up in PixInsight and convert down to 16-bit. And then open it up in Iris and do some tone mapping there. Yeah, desktop is a bit old. I mean, that might be doing it there. I haven't tried to run the latest paid versions of PixInsight. They denied it? Yeah, the one song from Between the Rings. I think Northern Lights gets struck all the time by Warner Music. I want to say it's Warner? Or it might be UMG. It might be Universal. I think it's a Universal Music Group. UMG. Yeah, they hit me all the time as well for one of the songs on the Between the Rings album. But I've been able to fight it successfully. You do have to tell them, like, specifically what the name of the song is, who it's from, that it's, Creative Commons and all that. And maybe you did, and maybe they still denied it, but at least in my case, they haven't denied it. They'll usually ignore it. Most of the time, they won't relinquish the claim. They'll just let it expire after 30 days. Northern Lights is it? I think so. Northern Lights usually gets claimed. I forget the name of the song that it's claimed as. It's not even the same name, of course. It's like Snow Season or something, I think. Some rap song. Somebody put a rap track over top of Northern Lights, but they'll just claim every copy of Northern Lights even though they don't own that. Yeah, another friend of yours tried to help out. Got their claim repealed. They rejected it. He tried to repeal again and got a strike. They struck him? Oh my gosh. That's so bad. And the sad thing is, if it is the one I think it is, Northern Lights, it's usually Universal, a music group, claiming it. So Universal, the company, is like behind it, and yeah, they got the big lawyers to bring out the big guns, and it's tough to fight that, even though they have no rights to it. Might be UMG, yeah, a bunch of others. Ended up muting the whole thing, but not before downloading the stream it was on. And another 50 from Snooch. Thank you. A few more to do what we enjoy. Actually get my notifications from a website we use mutually. Appreciate it. Thank you. Wow. Another big 50 from Snooch tonight. Man, you're killing it. It's very well appreciated. Don't feel obligated, but thank you. That is very appreciated. And as I said, it will go back into the equipment you see being used here tonight. Well, won't be used tonight, but it will go back into the equipment that I use on streams like this. So thank you so much. Appreciate it, Snooch. Very generous. If you have anything you want me to image specifically, like, let me know. I'll take requests, and we can shoot whatever it is that maybe you have some interest in. If you have any coordinates or any objects you want me to take a look at, I'll be happy to do that for you. Am I working for the NSA? No. Removing the original audio and adding other music from Everyday Astronaut, Kevin McLeod, and Stellar Drone, minus Northern Lights. Yeah, I specifically deselect Northern Lights now on my playlist, so it shouldn't play tonight. Hopefully, knock on wood. That'll keep UMG from hitting me with another false content ID claim. Like I said, they've done it to me before, and they have not upheld the claim or given me a strike, of course, when I've appealed it. But I've been pretty harsh and firm in my language when they falsely claim it. I just tell them outright, look, this is exactly what you're claiming. This is the actual song, and it's not yours. You don't have the rights to it, and the guy who does gave me permission. And oh, by the way, here's a screenshot of me communicating with him on Facebook, giving me written permission to use his music. So let's have some fun with that. And they usually, like I said, they usually just ignore it. Maybe I confuse them, but they usually just ignore it, and it times out after 30 days at that point. It's still annoying, though, because it ties up the monetization for 30 days. Holds it in escrow until the dispute's decided. But, so to avoid that headache, I just deselect Northern Lights now. Also Mars, it's on a different album. That one also got hit a lot back in the day. It hasn't happened more recently. I've kind of dabbled with it a little bit, but I still avoid using it just because I ran into issues before. Got my Observes OBS set up with a plugin that plays a VLC source with the music. Yeah, I just play it in a Windows Media Player in the background and just pull in the desktop audio, which has its own pitfalls, of course. But as long as I'm careful with that, it's fine. Anything I do is what we love. Keep it up. Thank you. Thank you so much, Snooch. I appreciate it. Did the same. Listed the original song. Published date, yeah, June or July 2017. GZ Snow Season didn't come out till December 2017. Yeah, exactly. I've even had it before. Maybe not with Snow Season, but with some others that were falsely claimed from Stellar Drone. It'll like pop up years after I did the video and years after the song was originally released. But it'll be like some new release, and they'll like retroactively claim something that it couldn't possibly have been. You know, I wish... I'm going to go on a rant for a second about this, about YouTube in general. I mean, everyone says, well, YouTube's just following whatever, you know, they were given a claim, and they're just following the claim. They're just trying to, you know, mediate between people who at least claim to own the content and people uploading to their site. Okay, fine. But when you receive a claim, I would think they ought to, well, first of all, they ought to ask, okay, what is the release date of this content? When was this content created that you're claiming? Okay, and then cross-reference that with the upload date. And if the upload date predates the creation of the content being claimed, well, then it can't possibly be the content being claimed, can it? So that should put a stop to it right there before it even gets to me. You should be looking at that saying, well, something's wrong here. Either they don't own the rights or they made a mistake in identification. It's one of the two. But no. Forgot the part. The plugin saves the current song playing to a text file, and I have OBS read that text file on a scroller on my screen. Oh, that's clever. Yeah. That's cool. Astronomy Live. If there's another pay platform you prefer, say the word PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. Appreciate it. Yeah, YouTube takes the 30%. It does, but it's a fee of convenience. I do offer channel memberships, mainly for people who have an interest in the software I create, because I release compiled executables of my software to channel members. And shameless self-plug here, I do have a new version of Sat Tracker. You saw me working on it. You guys saw me working on it earlier this week. I haven't uploaded the new version yet. There's still one more feature I want to add to it before I go ahead and release the new version. But that will be coming soon to channel members. So shameless self-plug. If you have any interest in Sat Tracker, a couple new features and some refinements will be coming to a new version released to exclusively to channel members. Also, the source code will be released on GitHub. But YouTube channel memberships make a convenient way for me to monetize the programs for people who want to just download pre-compiled executables for convenience, so that they don't have to try to compile from source code or install Python and all the various packages and dependencies. Thought about tweeting Team YouTube and Stellar Drones, see what happens. I mean, it was easy to remove the song that played several times over 3 hours, but I mean, come on. Yeah, I mean, it's easy enough to remove the song, but you shouldn't have to. And you shouldn't be having to, dispute the same thing over and over again. I mean, I know they've received multiple messages from me that, hey, this isn't the song you're claiming it is. And, it's happening to other creators too, a ton of other creators, I'm sure. At some point, they should realize, hey, we keep hitting the wrong song. We should probably, double check to make sure it isn't that song when we make future claims. But no, they just keep making the same false claim over and over. And that's another thing I'm going to complain about here. YouTube. Hey, YouTube. When these big companies are falsely claiming material they don't own, and they keep doing it over and over, penalize them. Stop letting them do it. Put them in timeout or whatever. Or at least make sure that that same song doesn't keep getting claimed. How hard is that? Did win a Content ID claim years ago on a Kevin MacLeod song that did similar. They sampled it and added it to their song. Seemed like it was an independent person, though, and not a big label. Yeah, it started out that way for me, too, where it was like these little, independent individuals or small label companies. But now it's like Universal Music Group. And I think I saw Warner on one claim one time, too. I could be wrong, but I know I've seen UMG, which is Universal Music Group. I mean, that's not a small company. YouTube audio copyright strikes are awful. The current system is clearly not working. No, it's not. It's so broken. It's just so broken. And it's so obvious that it's broken. Like I said, there's a couple things. One, they should be checking the content creation date for the content being claimed. If you're claiming that this person has stolen content that was released 2 years after the video was uploaded, something is wrong here. Either they're a time traveler or you've gone and made a mistake. And number two, when you falsely identify a song and it keeps happening, you should do something to fix it. Either fix the fingerprint that you're looking for, or have a separate fingerprint run and cross-check and make sure that when you identify the song in the future that it isn't the wrong one. Like when you're sampling someone else's content. And another 50 from Snooch. Wow. Thanks, man. You really don't have to do this, but I appreciate it. Having the means to use your software, but here's a few to help it go. Keep going. Keep it going. Thanks. No, I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I will keep it going, and hopefully others can continue to use my software. I've seen some excellent results by, gosh, I'm blanking on the name at the moment. It's on the tip of my tongue. It'll come to me later. But, shoot. Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue. But I've tweeted about it, and Josh Palmer, there's the name. Josh Palmer, he's done some fantastic video of ISS with an 11-inch telescope using Sat Tracker. Just fantastic shots. High magnification shots. And I've tweeted about it before, yeah. Really happy that I've not only created the software so I can use it, but others are using it too and getting even better shots, honestly, with their equipment. I'm hoping to be able to improve my level of performance with the new 11-inch scope I've got as well, so we'll see how that does. Oh, and get this, my friend who got the copyright claim and strike did some research. Jeezy has had lawsuits in the past over copyright with bigger people and lost, apparently. Wow, what a surprise. I can't believe, how does Universal keep working with him then? Like, how does that keep happening? You would think that their company would want to, mitigate their liability. It's insane. Also got a claim once when I accidentally had audio from a NASA stream and they started playing music. That one I went ahead and removed the audio because that was my fault. I mean, yeah, I've seen that before, and I know a lot of people ran into trouble during the Falcon Heavy demo flight if they caught the audio from the webcast, because they had David Bowie playing, of course, during that launch. I got lucky in that it didn't happen to me because the audio quality was so poor, because I was just picking it up from a ham radio that was in the background. You could hear it, but it was all staticky, and you couldn't really make out what song it was, and it didn't get identified as a David Bowie song, thankfully. Between the cheering on the stream and the fact that it was just a staticky ham radio in the background. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and just run a stack of what we've got so far. I've been, kind of watching as I'm talking, but I just want to see how it looks. Looks good individually when I'm tapping through the images. Got about 30 seconds till the next image, so I'll wait for that to run the stack. Wonder if SpaceX got permission to use the song. They probably did, I'm guessing. I mean, you gotta know it was a boon for David Bowie's estate, I'm sure. A lot of people were probably buying the album after that launch. But yeah, no, I did hear some people getting hit on that after the fact. And it was actually, I think, some of the conspiracy debunking videos that were getting hit too, because they were, sampling parts of the stream to talk about what was going on there. And yeah, they were getting claimed. Alright, that's 50 minutes of light. Yeah, stacking runs so fast with this computer. I love it. Okay, the offsets are all really tight. That's good. Okay, so I'm going to process this in PixInsight real quick. And actually probably do some tone mapping in Iris or something. It's getting chillier out here too. I might have to go grab a thicker coat. Okay. Well, the stars look reasonably tight. Happy enough about that anyway. Okay, let's see. I'll call this TIFF. 16-bit. And this is not going to have flat field subtraction, of course. I'll need to do that separately. I don't know how strongly to HDR this thing. Try this. Yeah, I think it's better the other way. Trying to tinker with the settings a little bit. That looks pretty decent for a first pass, anyway. At least as decent as it gets with the the level of chromatic aberration, right? Okay, so I'll share this in just a second. I'm going to take it into GIMP, and tonight I'm going to cheat a little bit and see if I can remove the dust spots from it without the flat field, just by using a healing tool. Okay. Alright, time to share the stacked image. Huzzah. I think that's not half bad, considering. Do I hunt for comets and asteroids? Not specifically, but I have found a comet, P2016J3, which is now designated as Comet 414P. Stereo was my discovery, which was serendipitous, using images from the Stereo spacecraft back in 2016. And it's since been recovered using observations on the ground. And because it's been seen now on more than one orbit, it's been given a permanent number designation and is one of a little over 400 such comets so far discovered and logged as periodic comets. Thank you, Snooch. Yeah, I think it's a pretty decent picture. Oops, I didn't mean to move that bit. I meant to move the picture. So I don't know where to put this exactly while also showing the live images. Maybe I just need to shrink down the live window. I'm running out of screen space. Yeah, sorry, I'm still figuring out what the best position for everything is. Oops, didn't mean to move that. Need to move this. No. Come on. Alright, there we go. Move that. Shrink this. Well, maybe that's too shrunk. No! Stop moving the background picture. Trying to do this on the fly, it's not great. Alright, now let's add some text. Live image on the right, 50-minute stack on the left. Charlie says, looks fairly good. I'm constantly amazed how good the detectors are these days. An old guy, remember all the hot, dark pixels columns on the old CCDs? 800 by 800, lots of artifacts, but so nice. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely an older detector. But it's actually got the same CCD that's found on the Mars Curiosity rover and Mars Perseverance rovers. So, the 2020 Kodak 2020 CM, I think, is the model number of the CCD, and it's found in the panoramic cameras and the Z-Cam on Curiosity and Perseverance respectively. So this exact same type of CCD is currently operating on Mars on 2 different rovers. In fact, I'm rather happy about. What is the image circle on your telescope? Seems to be bigger than Celestron. Oh, you mean like the total image produced by the telescope? So the field of view here is going to be fairly wide, because this is not with the big Celestron or even the 8-inch Celestron or the 8-inch Meade LX200. This is using an Orion 80mm refractor, riding piggyback on the 8-inch LX200 while it's polar aligned right now. I'm not sure what the field of view is off the top of my head. Probably wider than, it's definitely wider than half a degree. I'd say probably closer to 2/3 to 3/4 of a degree at least. Which version am I running? Oh, talking to... That wasn't talking to me, I guess. Which version of Windows? Oh. Yeah, personally, I'm on 10 for most things. My work laptop's Windows 11, but yeah, that has its own issues. I'm not happy with Windows 11, mainly because not everyone supports Windows 11 yet, which is kind of annoying. Hey, Andrew. Yeah, I need to change the description. Can I do that live? I suppose I can, yeah. Hopefully that propagated through. I put in the change anyway. I wasn't actually sure exactly what I was going to be running tonight, because I seriously thought this camera was dead. It's definitely not dead. It seems to be working fine. So, I'm happy about that. But plan A was to verify that this camera wasn't working, and then I was going to swap out for my backup camera, which had the A07 on it, and I was going to slap that on the main telescope and probably go after M81 by itself. But, no, I stopped at step check camera functionality and found it was actually working. So I'm going to go inside for a little bit and warm up and get a bigger, thicker jacket. It's cooling off out here, that's for sure. What's the camera currently running like? 40%, thereabout? Yeah. -5, it's fine. I could chill it more if I wanted to, but I don't want a temperature mismatch actually between the images, so I'll leave it. But I'm going to go in and warm up for a little bit and grab a thicker jacket, and I'll be back. Alright, I'm back, and I've been busy taking shots of the telescope and little time-lapse clips using my Google Pixel phone. So let me pull those up now and share them with you. So you can see some flickering there in the bushes, lights reflecting off the fence and such, from one of the neighbor's side motion lights that was on and then it turned off. But you can also see the telescope actually slightly moving. This is about a 4-minute time lapse. So you can see how the telescope is rotating with the stars there. The camera is actually on the bottom of the telescope, kind of. You can just see it starting to emerge from behind the mount there. And I've got another shot to share as well. It's kind of cool. I like that. I like just being able to make a quick little short time-lapse clip, even if it's only 4 minutes. Oh, good night, Snooch. Snooch had to leave, yeah. Sorry I missed you there in the chat as I was pulling those clips up. Yeah, I've got another one here too. Let me share that. So I did it again when I kept having issues with the neighbor's motion light turning on. Finally got a clip without it turning on. Every time a car drives down the street, it triggers the motion light. So here's one without the motion light being triggered. There's a little bit of flickering in the trees just from headlights on the main street in the distance, but they're not coming down our street at least. But you can see there how the telescope is rotating with the sky, which I really like seeing. That's cool. And you can see the camera blinking away there, so you can see where the camera is mounted on the little white refractor, which, because of the angle of the galaxy, it's actually kind of slung under the telescope, whereas the counterweight's kind of on the top of the telescope there. Just a homemade fish weight counterweight system. You can actually see a star reflecting off the shiny metal of the dew heater controller there. That's cool. Looks like a bug crawling up. But no, that's starlight. You can see Polaris is on the right side, just to the right of the top of that tree sticking up there. And all the stars are kind of rotating around that point. And so is the telescope, actually. So yeah, just wanted to share that real quick. We're coming up on 2 hours on these galaxies here. Oh, Snooch came back. Thanks. Another 50 from Snooch. Good night, Cap. Good night, everyone. Really have to go now. Keep up the great work and all. Keep up the support as I can. Thank you so much. You've been so generous. Thank you, Snooch. Appreciate it. Big 50 from Snooch. Yeah, I probably should have been paying more attention to the chat, to be honest, there. But, yeah, I wanted to shoot some time lapses and get some pictures of the scope doing its thing. I think it's pretty cool to be able to see that. So thank you again, Snooch, for joining, and thank you for all your support. Appreciate it. So the camera's still going strong. No sign of any kind of issues that I've seen. So I'm pretty happy about that. Let me pull in all the latest frames. Let's see, we left off on frame 10 there. We'll go through 11 through 20. Let's see. Yeah, no signs of any issues. Everything looks solid. So we're coming up on 105 minutes on the galaxies. I think I want to get at least a nice even 2 hours out of it. So another 15 minutes or so. Andrew, you might be pleased to know that I am using Python for some stuff recently, but only because that's what's easily available within FreeCAD. Interesting. G-code directly, no silly annoying slicer needed for my 3D print soon. Very cool. Yeah, I enjoy Python probably too much, but I've been doing some stuff with it both for work and working on new features for Sat Tracker as well. And I found an old copy of a computer game that I got when I was in college. Star Trek Bridge Commander. Goes back to 2003, 2004, somewhere around there. And the whole thing is basically coded in Python. It's hilarious. It's like this old version of Python. And I used to mod that game when I was in college, but I didn't really know hardly anything about Python at the time. And now I look back at it, and I'm looking at the code, and it's like, oh, I can actually understand this now. I can see what it's doing. Interesting. There's a lot of it there, but now I can actually understand what that code says. Kim Twister, I've been a huge fan of deep sky objects. I know Chris Elliott Astro Imaging, we're good friends, and I've been a fan since I was 14. Wow. Well, glad you could join us tonight. Hope you're enjoying this view of M81, M82. Mainly, I fired up this stream anticipating that I was going to be battling at least issues with this camera. I wanted to confirm that this camera was actually having issues. It gave me issues last time out. I was tracking James Webb, but tonight it's been running smooth, so it's been a smoother night than I anticipated. Oh, by the way, Astronomy Live, it appears GIMP 2.10.6 will open 32-bit TIFF files. Not sure if it converts down or not. Bridge Commander, vaguely remember that one. Yeah, I used to mod the heck out of that game back in the day. Not code-wise, just models and that kind of thing. But now I'm looking back at the code, it's like, oh, wow, this is, yeah, no, I could totally mod the heck out of it in terms of the code now. But, yeah, that's an oldie. It's definitely an oldie. Much love, everyone. Thanks, Dagger Spells. Played a lot of Armada back in the day. That's another one that was probably Python based, I would think, if I remember right, because they were both Activision games. I think Activision must have had like basically an exclusive license on Star Trek at the time, because they made some Quake based games too, right? They made Voyager Elite Force 2, and man, I remember Armada. I had that back in the day. Oh, the install failed. Yeah. I haven't tried to install Armada in a very long time. I think some fans, or at least some fan, went and made a fan-made sort of Armada 3 using Sins of a Solar Empire as the engine, I think it was. I meant to try that out just because it looked cool. It looked nice. Looked like they did a nice job on it. What am I looking at here? You are looking at a pair of galaxies. But I'm going to have to mute you. That screen name looks a little bit inappropriate. Sorry. We try to keep it PG around here. Brother still has his Atari 2600. Oh yes. Oh, I do love a good bit of retro gaming. To be honest, I have a Nintendo Switch and I mainly use it for playing old NES and SNES games, which is probably not the best use case for a Switch, but I love the old Mario Brothers stuff. Don't have much time to do it very often, but it's nice when I have a minute. You can just fire up good old Super Mario Brothers and play a little bit of it. And Andrew has a 2600 and a 5200. Wasn't the 5200 kind of a flop? I can't remember. I should know more about the history of Atari, but I've kind of forgotten. Even a ColecoVision, ooh. I think I've really only seen one of those on an Angry Video Game Nerd video. Had a Super Nintendo? Yeah. My little brother had a Super Nintendo. I had the original NES. But I think I got more use out of his SNES than he did. Got an got an NES in the garage. No idea if it works. Rescued from the garbage years ago. No games or controllers. Fortunately, I foolishly sold my NES when I was a kid. Probably middle school, around there. Sold it at a garage sale. Kind of wish I had hung on to it, but it probably wouldn't even work anymore. First console you had did Pong. Yeah, my parents had a Pong machine. It wasn't even like a full-blown Atari. I'm not sure what that was, but all it did was Pong. I'll never forget the first time I experienced Mario Brothers was, if I recall correctly, at the neighbor's house. They had just gotten an NES, and that was a eye-opening experience. At least it was so radically different and more advanced than Pong. That's what I'd seen before, and here was this, brightly colored character running around on the screen. Did a lot on Commodore 64 and the Atari computer, to the point the Atari disk drive belt broke and no one had replacements. Ended up printing the basic scripts I was writing. LOL. People are making new games for NES. Yeah. The Atari computer. Yeah, we had a Commodore 64 as well. I doodled on it, but I never really... I wasn't not into programming at that point. The plane's coming over. I don't think it'll fly through the field of view, but we'll see. Vic 20, second machine, first machine you built. Wow. New stack of Orion is looking better, more detail before it starts to get noisy. Didn't apply dark, bias, or flat, so lights total of 25 minutes. Probably need way more time than that. Yeah, I mean, you just keep adding more time to it. The last shot of Orion I did about a year ago that I'm pretty happy with. I put in probably 2-3 hours worth. You can go even deeper than that, of course, but that's about the limit of my patience, is about 3 hours. C128 is what these 64 should have been. We'll try restacking with older darks, flats, and bias, even though they were taken weeks before. Yeah, it's worth a shot. Let's see here. So we're coming up on 2 hours worth of light here. Let's see how it looks with 2 hours of light. I might be satisfied at this point, or I might keep going, I'm not sure. Thought the Commodore 128 was a nice looking machine. Also wanted that big eyesore that the Commodore 64 could plug into as a dock. Oh, huh. We had the, I guess, tape machine for the Commodore 64 that you could like load in or save programs to and read from. Alright, 10 more seconds, then I'll have 2 hours worth of images to run a proper stack on. And just run it through the same kind of processing I did before. Probably won't see huge differences. You start to, get diminishing returns after about an hour. But you still want to keep going. I mean, I like to put in... difference between 3 hours and, say, 1 hour is usually pretty significant. Alright, 2 hours of light. There we go. Let's stack that up. Okay. convert this to a TIFF, open it up in Iris, and do tone mapping. Okay. That's pretty good. I'm gonna do a background subtraction. That's pretty good. going to do the same thing and use the healing tool to Photoshop out the dust spots, since I don't have flat fields yet. It's cheating, but it works as a stopgap measure for now. Definitely. Like the Meade, I'm just blinking for myself between the previous version of the image and the current version of the image. And like the big difference is the galaxies. The two galaxies stand out more using the same sort of contrast settings. I'd say they stand out better against the background. Overall, the noise level is similar, but I am doing a noise cleanup as a step. But yeah, they definitely look even better now. Okay, so I save that, and I will now share on stream. Okay, so that was the previous version. I'm going to duplicate that. Okay, so I've already changed it actually. It's now the 120-minute stack. So this is the 2 hours. 1 hour? 2 hours. Or 50 minutes basically, just shy of an hour. 50 minutes, 120 minutes. 50 minutes, 120 minutes. You see the difference? Like the thing that really changes, it's not a huge difference, but there is a difference. And you can see how the galaxies principally are a bit brighter. There's a bit better contrast and a bit better definition in the fainter regions of the spiral arms of M81. And it stands out better against the background. And really, both of them do. The cigar galaxy down below and the spiral galaxy up top. So 50 minutes, 120 minutes. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Like, I've definitely seen images that go even longer, even deeper, and pull out more of the starburst region of M82, the Cigar Galaxy, more of that red sort of hydrogen alpha, I guess, region. Dang, my lights are 6-second exposures, darks are 8 seconds, so DSS is complaining, but I'll give it a go anyway. Yeah, it's not going to be so happy if your dark time isn't lined up with your, isn't equivalent to your light time. Might as well let it run. Why give the scope another chance? Well, I was giving the camera another chance, because the camera gave me issues last time. During my James Webb stream, this particular camera started acting very bizarre and was not even hardly controllable. It was not responding to commands, and it was occasionally giving corrupted images, or images where the shutter was like half closed. It was acting all kinds of bad, and I thought it was because the camera was dying, but it seems like maybe it was a fluke. It's working great tonight. Same camera. I pulled the A07 off of it, if maybe that made a difference, but yeah, the camera's working okay. Hopefully the problem was not actually the A07 causing an issue, but it continued giving me issues last time, even when I disconnected the A07 altogether and tried to run it as a regular S-Big ST2000 camera. So I don't think the A07 was the problem. I think it was just a fluke. Maybe a bad USB connection or bad power connection, whatever the case. But nevertheless, I wanted to run for at least a couple hours tonight with the camera to make sure if it wasn't going to act up that it didn't start acting up at any point. And no, for 2 hours it's given nothing but solid images. So, pretty happy with that. And yeah, this is M81, M82. Whoa. Something went wrong there. Oh wow, the camera really rotated at some point during that exposure. Well, that's a tosser. Not meaning the offensive British slang. I mean, the image can be tossed. That's not good. Yeah, unfortunately, the draw tube it's in has 2 set screws, but neither one are super tight. And there's no compression ring on this scope. It's cheap. So it is free to rotate a bit under gravity as the telescope turns. Gravity's starting to tug on the camera and torque it a bit. So it's torquing it and causing it to rotate. Has it been doing that and I've just not noticed the last few minutes? I mean, it obviously did it on this last exposure, but I've been processing images for a few minutes, so I don't know if it kept doing that. Yeah, it started to do it right after the 2-hour mark. Ooh, okay. That's okay. We got 2 hours of images out of it. I'm pretty happy. Pretty happy with that. So I'm gonna stop it here because it's just gonna keep doing it now at the angle it's at. It's gonna have too much trouble. No firmware changes. No, it wasn't a firmware issue. I didn't change anything with the firmware. But what I'll do real quick is I'll get some lights on here and take some flat field frames for calibration purposes. But I mean, basically I'm going to end up with the 120-minute stack. But yeah, there's the 2-hour stack of M81 and M82. That's not too shabby, I'd say. Haven't had any problems with Starlink? No, not really. Occasionally I do see them. You're not going to see them at this season in Florida this late in the night at this angle. There's a lot of caveats with all that, as you can see, but their visibility very much depends on your latitude, the season, and where you're looking in the sky. And in spring, just at the start of spring, in Florida, this late at night, they're basically almost entirely in Earth's shadow. And this high over the horizon, yeah, you're not in the north. You're not going to see them. StarNet++. I haven't tried it. Might be something to look at. Thanks to Kim. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the shot. Not bad for a little 80mm refractor I picked up for $100 years ago. Just a little achromat. You get the nasty color chromatic aberration, but if you can ignore that, it's pretty. But like I said, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I'm gonna take some flat field frames and call it a night. Get out while I'm ahead, now that I'm starting to get some torquing on it from the rotation of the telescope. But I'm pretty happy with that, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Only seen Starlink on 2 or 3 occasions, and I was trying. Yeah, I mean, by eye, I've only seen it a few times. Definitely when I've been trying. Occasionally, they'll show up in my video viewfinder while I'm tracking other satellites. I'll see them, and if I go back and look, I've seen it before on like an ISS pass, where I'm like, oh, there's something else there too, other than ISS, and I'll identify it. Sure enough, it's Starlink. But by eye, yeah, I generally only see it when I'm really looking for it. Thanks, Tanaj. Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Joseph. Appreciate it. I've enjoyed it. I think we've done some good work here tonight, and I've verified this camera's actually working, and so I'm very happy about that. So I'm gonna pack it up and not stuff it in the closet to collect dust for the rest of its life. So I'll watermark this photo and post it on Twitter, and post maybe a link to the stacked photo in the video description as well. So keep an eye out for that. But I'll do that once I get the flat fields and do proper calibration of the images. Star Exterminator is good too. Yeah, that might be fun to try. I don't know how well it will work with bloated stars from chromatic aberration, but it's worth a shot. Yeah. Alright, thanks, SMA. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you all next time. Clear skies, folks.